Welcome back to PR After Hours. I'm your host, Alex Greenwood, bringing you your weekly cocktail of PR and marketing tips that will help you and your business. Hello, listeners. It's me, Alex, from PR After Hours. I hope you're enjoying the show so far. And I wanted to talk to you just for a moment about the way I get this show right into your earbuds every week. It's because I use Anchor FM. Now, I've told you previously that I've been podcasting since 2006, back when we used stone knives and bear skins and a couple of Dixie cups and string. Anchor FM has really streamlined this and made it simpler for people who don't know the first thing about setting up a podcast or don't have, time to learn all the pro tools and stuff, because it's all right here. First thing it's important to know is it's free. There are certain tools that will allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will then distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. That's huge. Distribution is a big pain in the butt, to be honest with you, so it's really great Anchor FM can do that for you, and you're not paying hosting fees. That adds up every month. It's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. So download the free Anchor app or go to Anchor FM to get started, and be sure to join me in the virtual cocktail lounge on PR After Hours. So, a recent episode we did was called What Not to Do, particularly when it comes to what not to do during this coronavirus pandemic, this world pandemic, and specifically what not to do in terms of your PR. Certain things that you should not do as a brand, you can go listen to the episode, of course, it's called What Not to Do, but basically it was talking about people or brands trying to glom onto the crisis with their story when it really didn't fit. Square peg into a round hole, where they were trying to look like they were part of the solution to the crisis, and really they were at very best tangential to the crisis. It would be like, one example I gave was, don't pitch reporters if you're a restaurant because you're doing curbside delivery. Well, that was a story when that first started, but it's not a story anymore because virtually every restaurant trying to survive is doing curbside delivery or actual delivery to your door and that kind of thing. That's just a little example. But that said, I was thrilled to get one of my first or second question here on the series. This is from Steve. This is actually not his real name, because he is a PR practitioner and he didn't want to cause any waves, but he had a serious question. He said, "Hey Alex, finished your last episode of PR After Hours. Unfortunately, I was asked to send a press release that I wasn't super comfortable with given the coronavirus outbreak. Would love your thoughts on the best way to push back on those requests." So I did a little more digging with Steve and just asked him a few more questions, and without getting into what it was just what we were talking about. It was about a product that, may or may not help people out during the crisis. Let's leave it at that, okay? Point being, he didn't feel comfortable because he thought that it sounded pretty tone deaf, and it just didn't, it was not written, the press release and the pitch was not written in a way, though that's what the client wanted, it was not written in a way that would be beneficial to the client long term. Okay. The thing we have to remember for PR professionals, whether you're an agency or you're working internally, is it's your job to do what Steve did. He is looking ahead. He's looking ahead to what are the cause and effect. What's going to happen if I pitch this to the media, knowing full well that the reporter or the editor or the producer is going to be like, why are you wasting my time with this? Or despite what your bosses or your clients say, you might pitch it just fine, but then the reporter, the editor, the producer might say, not only is this not true necessarily, it's pretty cynical of you to try to push that on me. And then there's another way it goes where maybe your pitch is good enough to where it actually gets some traction, but then you have all this public backlash when it comes out, when people start to realize, hey, this was really not a genuinely good faith thing that you're doing here, sharing this information about this product or service. Okay, so what do we do about it? How do we push back? There's a lot of ways you can do that. The first thing, though, to remember if you're a public relations person is that you are, and I've said this in talks, I borrowed this from Michael Clayton, I use this in my seminars, you are, as a PR person, the janitor. And what I always tell my clients in a lighthearted way, I even show them the clip from the movie Michael Clayton where George Clooney says, "I'm the janitor," and he basically says, I can't clean up everything especially if it's a huge mess. Basically, I'm paraphrasing, but basically he says, I'm the janitor, the size of the mess is up to you. Okay. And the bigger the mess, of course, harder it is to clean up. Just ask BP. So the things you want to do is what Steve did. He was looking ahead and he's trying to find a way to temper the client's desire to obviously build awareness and, let's just say it, make money during this pandemic. Who doesn't want to? I know I'd like to, but I don't want to do it by sacrificing my brand. So there's a few things you can do. Give them hard data. Data wins arguments. In marketing and PR, you can never assume anything. And even if you feel like something won't work, it's worth doing a tiny scale test to validate your hypothesis. I took that from a comment from Nishank Khanna of Demand Roll, by the way, and I totally agree with that. But give them the hard data and just say, what is the potential return on investment if we do get this message out there and let's say we do sell some more widgets. Is it necessarily going to be worth the backlash we may get because it's slightly disingenuous or tone deaf or makes us look like we're insensitive? So there's data. So you could look into that. Of course, you might say, well, there's no data because we haven't done it yet. Okay, fine. So then you could look into your own portfolio. You can look into your own files and say, okay, I had an experience with X, Y, or Z a while back or 10 years ago. We did this and we tried this and we thought it was the greatest idea in the world, and then it blew up on us. Or it didn't blow up on us, but it didn't go over real well, and then we spent a lot of months kind of rebuilding our reputation with some people because we just looked tone deaf and insensitive. So if you can find a good example in your portfolio, in your personal bag of tricks, find one of those. If not there, you can always just go digging around the internet and looking for examples of similar things. You will find tons, I assure you, tons of case studies of brands gone wrong, and especially in crisis situations. Give them a good reason, a good specific reason why it won't work. Make sure they understand, okay, look, this is why this is what I think is not going to work about this. And here's why I think this is tone deaf. And just tell them that. Sometimes that's all they need to hear. They need to hear their trusted public relations counselor tell them, okay, look, been around the block a few times. This is what I do. This is how this will likely be received. Can we tweak it a little bit this way so it's not quite this insensitive or this tone deaf or this whatever negative thing it is? Tell hard truths. You don't have to tell it in a hard way, though. I like to think I'm very candid. I actually tell my clients, I speak very openly and candidly with you. I expect you to do the same with me. We're in the trust tree together, and tell them the truth. Be considerate. Spare their feelings unless you think they just need the hard, shaking of the shoulders and you're going to screw up your whole career or your whole company if you do this. It just depends on that. But make sure your response is proportionate. If it's just a few words, a few lines that need to be tweaking, just say, hey, look, I see where you're going with this, but I think it could be mistaken for this later, or it could be misconstrued, or it could bite us in the butt later. Here's what I think, But the most important thing I think you do, don't just show up with a problem. Okay, this is a big tip for you that has worked for me my whole career. When I'm going to a client or I would go to my boss or whatever with an issue, I would always come not only with the problem, but with several solutions for the boss or the client to choose from. So I would have 2 or 3 good alternatives to what they're doing. Say, this is why I don't think it. So you go and you say, this is why I think it doesn't work. And here's how I think it should go. And here are a few ways I think we could go. And more than likely, if you make your case well, you keep it professional and polite, but you still convey the seriousness of it, and you have alternatives. 9 times out of 10, the client's going to do it and go your way and change it and make things better, and make a better decision. If you have a client, and I've had a few of these, by the way, if you have a client who just, when they hire you, they're all like, yeah, I trust your judgment, that's why I hired you. But it seems like when it gets down to it, every time they ignore your advice, even your well-considered advice, and when you even lay it on the line and say, in my professional opinion, if you do this, X, Y, and Z will go wrong horribly. If they continually do that, it's time to look for an exit strategy. If they're your client, you need to go to them and say, I can't in good conscience take your money if you're not going to listen to what I say, because you're just getting deeper and deeper into trouble, and I don't want to see that happen to anybody, and maybe you need somebody who can get through to you. You don't say it exactly that way, but that's the tenor of it. And if you're working at a company where the boss is that way or the powers that be, you have a choice. You can write it out and be miserable, but your personal reputation will take a hit with the media and probably with some colleagues and definitely with customers or clients. So you want to think about that. But I would start, casting my nets elsewhere to find another position. But, it doesn't have to go to that, and I hope that's your last resort. It's never a good idea to bail just because you have a couple of disagreements. But basically, make sure if you're running up against these bad ideas, Steve, do what you already did, I think, and you go in and you give good, solid reasons why, based on your experience, why it doesn't work. You try to provide data. You try to find some examples from your own career or that you Googled up from other similar brands screwing up, doing things they shouldn't. Bring that to them and say, okay, and so with all that said, I have 2 or 3 different ways we can go with this. What do you think? Well, what do you think? I appreciate you, Steve, for listening. Please keep listening and please tell your friends. And if you have another question, get a hold of me. Steve got a hold of me through the Twitter at @A_Greenwood. And also you can get a hold of me through Hours PR, at Hours PR. That's the PR After Hours Twitter handle. That's just fine either way. But I'd really love it is if you record a message, and you can use a fake name if you want. Just record a message. Just go get an Anchor FM account. It's free. Record the message. It'll be sent to me, and I can pop it right into the show and answer your question there. I'd love to have that. That would be so good. So just check the show notes for links to that. And, of course, if you can sponsor or donate to the cause, that's also very welcome. I'm rattling the tip jar here, particularly until my SBA loan comes through. I could sure use a couple of bucks to tidy up the virtual lounge here a little bit. So just please look for those links and let me know. And we'll be back with you next time with another tip and hopefully another question on PR After Hours.